Hi, my name is Joni Martin. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator who loves to play with paper. Today I'm going to show you how to make a cute card using some paper scripts. As you watch my video, I will be sharing tips to make your paper crafting easier and your projects look great. Today I'll show you step by step how to make this fun card. You can find a list of supplies and directions on my blog, www.scrappinwithjoni.com. Today we are using materials from the Whale of a Time suite. These are in the current annual Stampin' Up! Catalog. If you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd be happy to get you a catalog. As you can see, there's a variety of ocean themed prints here. Some are larger prints and some are smaller prints. These are 6x6 papers, and we're going to use the smaller prints today on our project. We'll also be using some sequins from this suite, and our stamp set today is from the suite. It's called Whale Done, and we're going to stamp hoping all your birthday fishes come true. Pretty cute, huh? I like to begin by doing my stamping first. I think it lets my ink settle into my paper, and when I'm ready to assemble my card, everything goes together pretty quickly. I'm pulling out my Stamparatus. Stamparatus is a Stampin' Up! Tool that's like a stamp placement tool. It makes sure, once I have it set up, that my stamped image is always going to land where I want it, and it's going to be straight. So I'm someone who makes lots of cards, and this really helps me save time and save product. Ahead of time, I drew the shape I wanted, and I lined up my stamp right where I wanted it, and the grid paper assured me that I have it straight. So now, as many of these as I want to do, each one I just put in there. It comes with 2 magnets. Notice the lovely duct tape I have on them. That's because the magnets are really, really strong. And by adding the duct tape, I'm doing 2 things. One, these magnets can fly together, and if they're not protected, they can shatter. So the duct tape keeps them intact, and it gives me handles to be able to pull them apart. All right, we're using Bumblebee ink today. It's a color that's going to pop a little bit more on my card front. On that first sample I showed you, I'd done it in a blue, but I felt like the saying didn't really show. I just want to give you a quick tip about inking your stamps. Notice how lightly I'm tapping here. Sometimes I've seen people in my classes push really hard with the ink against the stamp, and they're just trying to get their stamp well inked, but here's what happens. So look at this. Look what that looks like. All the ink gets pushed away. Someone was really used kind of a heavy hand with this one, and the ink pushes away from your stamp and from the ink pad, so you're not really getting ink where you need it. A light tap is always better. I'm going to push down. This is where you want to put some effort into it. I'm going to push down. Look at that, it looks great. If it didn't, if I missed part of a word, because nothing has moved, I can just re-ink and do it again. If I have a stamp on a block and I miss part of a word, I just would start over because I could never get it lined up again, and that's frustrating. It's wasting my time and wasting product. Okay, so our stamping is done. The next thing we're going to talk about is our envelope. I know I haven't even gotten to the card front yet, have we? I'm a big believer in no naked envelopes. I think if you've done the work of making a handmade card for someone, we want to let them know as soon as they even get the envelope that something special is inside. So you can stamp on, I could stamp some fishes on the envelope. What I'm doing today is my favorite thing. I'm taking a scrap of that paper. It's 2 1/4 by 6, and I'm covering the envelope flap. Today I'm using liquid glue. I'm a big fan of this adhesive because it lets me, it doesn't need a lot, and it lets me move things around. Sometimes the first time I get it down is not as straight as I want. And this gives me a little grace. I can kind of just move it until I have it where I want it. And as I said, it's a pretty strong adhesive. And you want this right at the fold, so when you fold it, you don't see it. We're going to set that aside, and now we'll get started on our card front. This is the piece we stamped, and we're going to begin with our squares through the center, and as a guide I'm going to draw a very, very light line. The only person who should be able to see that line is you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my grid paper to help me. I'm moving things over so you can see the numbers. This is 4 inches, which means I want 2 inches here and 2 inches here. So that's what I'm doing. And then on my ruler, really lightly, I'm going to use the grid line to help me. I'm going to go straight across. Like seriously, so light, the only person seeing it is you. Yeah, notice my writing on my ruler. We used this in another class project where they were using a Stampin' Up marker across here, and it was just a reminder to be courteous to the next person using the ruler and clean it off. All right. Again, I'm going to go back to my grid like so. All right. I have cut 1-inch squares. I have 4 different prints, which works the best. 3 you could make work, but 4 is just a little more optimum. And because I have such a small square, I'm using a pretty small print. You only need about 3 of each. I have quite a stash here because I plan to make a number of cards. And this is what we're doing. We're going to start in the center on that very light grid line we made. And we're going to assemble them so that one corner of the square is on the line and the other corner of the square is on the line, just like that. Our fish are kind of going every direction, and it's not really going to matter in this design. I'm adding just a little bit of the liquid glue, one corner on the line, the other corner on the line. Pop that down. Now, I just want to make sure that I don't put the same print next to each other. Just a little bit. One corner on the line. I'm leaving a little bit. Think of like tile when you're tiling. Not that I've ever tiled, but you know how tile looks when there's a little bit of space between the squares? That's what you're doing. There we go. All the way across. I love this little fish paper, and it's so cute. I think it's a card I could send to my little nephew or to my brother. There we go. I have a grown-up nephew who loves to fish. This would be perfect for him. Now, when you get to the end, you're going to go off the edge of your card, and that's okay. But what I try to do is just roughly eye up what part's going to be on my card and what part's going to be off. Just have less glue. It's not a big deal. This is grid paper I can throw away, but I can always find that random piece of glue where I don't want it on my card. So if I can avoid that a little bit, it's just easier. And that's going to line up there like so. All right, now we're going to add 1 row above and 1 row below, and then we're done. And I started this way and went this way, so now I'm going to kind of go backwards, because what I don't want is the same print next to each other. If I did that, you just kind of lose the impact of having different prints. So for me, I just work my way backwards, but it's really not a big deal. And then again, I'm just lining them up in there, like so. I have used this paper for so many different cards. If you check out my blog, you'll see lots of other cards using the Whale of a Time paper. It's so much fun. There we go. Right here, I need to pick a paper that's not this or not that. I am part of a scrapbooking group in a different Facebook group. And last week I did a scrapbook layout for them using this design, and one of the people in the Facebook group asked if we could make a card, you know, would you be able to do a card the same way? So that's how this card came about. I designed it using much smaller squares. My scrapbook layout uses a 2.5 by 2.5 square, and I matted it. And if you're a scrapbooker and would like to see that, that's also on my blog. There we go, just like so. This really comes together pretty quick. All right, we'll grab this little fishy guy. We're almost there. And you also could cover the whole card this way. I mean, you wouldn't need to leave space at the bottom for a saying. You could do more than the, you know, the row above and the row behind, but that's just the design I did. But you could cover your whole card. You kind of got carried away with this, or you really liked it. Okay. Now we have a space here, and we're going to fill that in. And again, we're going to kind of think, I'm going to get most of the print where the fish is, and I want to think about how much is going to be on my card, so about half. So that's going there. Once you have your papers cut, this goes together really pretty quick. That goes there, and up here, let's do this one. That could go kind of there. This is not an exact science, this is a handmade card. We don't need perfect. There. All right. So I do have a little bit of glue here, and I'm just pointing that out because I'm going to try to be aware of that that I don't end up throwing a like, piece of paper on top of it and getting glue everywhere. I'm moving my squares out of the way. I'll save those and make some more of this card later. On the inside, you could just add any birthday greeting you want because you have the birthday fishes, so even just happy birthday on the inside would work. I'm using my card front as my guide, and I'm going to trim off those extra pieces. And at this point, they're ready to be recycled. I think a piece smaller than 1 inch can go. I have Stampin' Up! Members on my team. They're so great at using paper scraps. They'd probably find a way to use those little pieces. Me, not so much. All right. My card base, I'm ready to attach it. It's a color called Night of Navy. It is 5.5 by 8.5, and I'm just gonna fold it in half. For me, I have better luck getting it straight if I start out straight, so I'm using my grid paper. I'm gonna push it down. I like to get a nice flat fold. So I use the bone folder from Stampin' Up! If you don't have one of those, another tip is to use your scissors and just use that end. Go like that. Okay. I have better luck if I open my card base, but however it works for you, and I'm gonna attach this. I'm continuing to use the liquid glue, but you use whatever adhesive you're most comfortable with. You're going to have better success if it's an adhesive that you're comfortable with and you know how it works for you. I'm going to center that on my card front, like so. And you could be done at this point, but I felt like it just needed a little bit more of something. So also in this suite, we have the Wheel of a Time sequence. Great for shaker cards. I'm a big fan of shaker cards. You could use them for that. Whoa, flying sequence. But I'm going to just add a couple to the card front. These do not have adhesive on them, so I'll show you how I do that. I'm going to, we'll just leave them open like this. This is our Take Your Pick tool, and at one end, we have putty. I'm going to use the putty to pick up the sequins and attach it to one of our glue dots. So I'm going to grab it here. Whoa, sometimes it stays connected and sometimes it doesn't. There we go. And I'm going to use the other end, pop it off, and put it on my card. And part of it is, guys, I just have too much. The putty's on the inside here, and you can just pull off the excess. That's why it wasn't picking up for me either. Okay. I like to put embellishments on in groups of 3. My mom used to plant beautiful flower gardens, and when she was teaching me to plant annual bulbs, she always talked about putting them in the ground in odd numbers. And I've always just stuck with that. Okay. There we go. And this one's going here. See, I have a random one that was sticking on there. So I'm going to use 3. I like to put my embellishments in a rough triangular shape. That comes from scrapbooking. That's more pleasing to the eye, and it's something I'm just used to doing there, so I tend to do it here too. I have lots of colors in here. I'm just going with the blue ones because I like them. There we go. I'm going to, even before I put this last one on, I'm going to close my sequins. From experience, I know I can spill those things faster than anyone else. All right. There we go. What do you think? Easy card, kind of fun use of your scraps. All we have left now is that envelope flap we started. So it's glued on here. I'm going to use the envelope flap as my guide, and I'm going to trim it like so. There we go. Nothing to it. And now when someone gets this in the mail or it's hand delivered, they're going to be like, oh wow, the envelope is so impressive. I can't wait to see the card. Thanks for watching my card making video today. Are you looking for new card ideas? I include a card project with a supply list and directions in my Sunday night email. You can sign up for my email on my blog. If you'd like this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up underneath my video, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Until next time,